Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Walk Show podcast. This is your host, Walker Neer. Thank you so much for tuning in. On today's episode, we're joined by Misha Zarins, who dropped by just to kind of have an open-ended conversation. Talked about some movies that we've seen, talked about the new Dave Chappelle stand-up, talked about the new Tool album that we're both are so much in love with, and just really had a good time. Before we get to Misha, though, I did have a couple of thoughts I wanted to share on my own. Something that I was just talking to another friend about today that's a constant thing that keeps coming up. Sometimes a couple of my friends refer to this as hints, and it's really just kind of where you kind of see the same idea being presented over and over again in a variety of ways. And so to say what I mean by that is I have this constant, the thing that keeps popping up for me is this idea that I guess life, you could say, but, certainly different experiences. And I guess it probably does just apply to life in general. maybe it applies best actually to life as a whole is the idea that it's about the journey, not the destination. And that, the destination might be the thing that actually propels you, i.e. like a goal or something, right? That propels you to take whatever journey you're going to go on. But ultimately, the reward that one finds actually is kind of in the journey of getting there more so than it is in achieving whatever that final thing is. And, that's why I say, I guess with life, ultimately we're all going to be gone. Right. And so that's certainly, once you get there, it's not fun anymore. So it was certainly more about the journey than the destination. But it applies to a lot of other things as well. And it's just, I saw it, I've seen it in talking with some different friends. I went to this conference this weekend for a video game company actually, but this video game studio actually recorded a live podcast while we were there at the conference, and that was kind of one of the things they talked about as well during their podcast, was just kind of the idea of the journey versus the destination, and how that's actually the thing that really is the significant thing, even though sometimes it's easy to overlook that. There's a Tool song called Parabola that's yet again one of my favorites, because all of the Tool songs are one of my favorites. But there's a line that I wanted to share from it, and that is, "This body holding me reminds me of my own mortality. Embrace this moment and remember, we are eternal. All this pain is an illusion." Now, certainly that could maybe is a bit more spiritual than I'm even trying to talk, in the context of. But the point just being that, it's all temporary, and it's all just going by, a second, a minute, an hour, a day, a month, a year, whatever at a time. And try and stay in the moment as often as you can, and appreciate the moments that you have, because they're fleeting, and some moments and some experiences you only have once. After the conference we went to dinner, and to be clear, the conference we went to is Shenanigans is the name of it, and the video game company is Butterscotch Shenanigans. It's actually ran by three brothers that are based out of St. Louis. Highly recommend checking out their games if you're a gamer, and honestly, their podcast is pretty interesting, because they don't just talk about gaming, they also just kind of talk about life and things that they're learning and experiencing and that sort of thing. But anyway, after the conference, we went out to dinner, and with one of the brothers, we were talking and at the table, and he was explaining how he has this, in college, when he met his eventually future wife, she had a lot more exotic taste in food than he did. He grew up in Iowa, and said that salt was almost treated like a spice, and talked about how upon meeting his wife, he decided that he was just going to try the thing that he found the most bizarre on whatever restaurant menu they were at. And in doing that, he really developed this kind of complex palate, I guess you could say, and just this enjoyment of such a wide variety of foods. And then that also extends to different drinks and stuff as well. But he talked about he was talking about how he recognizes at a lot of these moments where he's having these different foods or these different drinks, that like it might be the only time he ever has it. And so even if it's not like his favorite thing that he's ever had, if it's something that's unique and interesting, and it's not making him sick or anything like that, he really just tries to appreciate the fact that this might be the only time in his entire life that he tries that. And so just to kind of just cherish that in that moment. Certainly it's easy to say that and hard to apply that in every circumstance in life. I think that's a really interesting area that he's kind of chosen to apply that thought. But like I said, it's just been something that's been on my mind a lot recently and just kind of keeps popping up in different places. This idea that the journey is greater than the destination, kind of like the sum of the whole is greater than the part. No, some of the parts is greater than the whole. That's it, I think. Anyway, but that's it. So I just wanted to share that, and we'll get over to Misha. All right, hey, what's up, Misha?
What's going on, man?
Not a lot of. What you up to today?
Work, and then bailed on a happy hour with my coworker, so it's good. Sent me a text message saying that I was dead to him, so
Nice.
Typical work day.
Right. I actually got a heavy bag. Like a punching bag.
Oh, nice. Did you get a stand for it and everything?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I wasn't going to try and hang that from my ceiling. I went out there and because I did it in the trap house out back.
Oh yeah, right.
Because the stuff's all finally cleared out that people had out there or whatever. So I bought some puzzle mat, which is like that. It's like a 1/2-inch foam mat that snaps together or whatever.
Yeah, it looks like a kindergartner's mat.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. It's used by sophisticated workout people.
Right.
So,
or nap time.
Nap time or sophisticated workout. So,
right. Or both. Lay down, have some chocolate milk.
That's what I did after in that bag. But no. So I got the puzzle mat, and then I went out there and I was like, so I wonder how I would hang this from the ceiling, and the ceiling is like drywalled or whatever. I don't know if that's actually what the material is, but it's like a normal ceiling. It's not exposed beams. So I was like, I don't know how to tell where the beams are and or if they could support that. And I don't. Everything else about this house is chintzy, so it's that's probably chintzy too. So I'll just get the stand.
I think you can get a stud finder and do it that way.
Yeah, I do actually know that that's possible, but even still, it's I don't know actually how strong all that stuff is and what considerations might go into it, and I don't really want to cave my roof in. So
right. So have you started using it?
Yeah, I got the heavy bag Tuesday. I had it shipped. So I got the heavy bag Tuesday, it's 100 pounds and it was just filled. And turns out I can lift 100 pounds and I can carry it if I take 2-inch steps, just tiny little baby steps.
Yeah.
Luckily I had Pig show up and help me.
That's good.
Carry it in there. But anyway. And then
hang that for me.
No. So today I got the stand. So the stand is 7.5 feet tall. So I had to assemble that with bolts and nuts and washers and an Allen wrench. And
did you use tools?
I did. Yeah. And I listened to Tool while I did it. So it was kind of like a
irony.
Providence is the word I use, but whatever. And so
hashtag shell and monk, I get it.
Correct. So So I put the stand together, and then I had to hang the bag from the 7.5 foot thing or whatever, right? Which I can reach that, but the bag is in the box. It was easier to carry the bag because you're holding onto a cardboard box. But once it's out of the bag, the 100-pound heavy bag is just slick because it's just nylon or I don't know what material it is, but it's not. So I'm trying to bear hug it and lift it. And it's just sliding down and not working at all. So, proving that I could have also been an engineer, just didn't choose to.
Yeah.
I leaned it up against the wall and then tipped the stand down over.
Oh, nice.
So that it was as low as the bag, and then hooked it in, and then leaned it back up.
Yeah. Work smart, not hard. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I still had my 18-ounce gloves from when I boxed when I was a kid. Humongous. Like, I don't know if you've seen an 18-ounce glove, but it's like as big as like a person's head, like one glove.
Yeah,
like, it's
right.
ridiculous.
Right.
But yeah, so had some hand wraps. So wrapped my hands up and put the gloves on and hit the bag. Still got the old thunder, you might say.
Still got some stuff in the basement, I believe.
Yeah.
Is correct.
Nice. That's accurate. Yeah. Stuff in the basement, you know. Stuff in the basement. We actually reenacted the entire film of Rocky V right there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's it. Basically, in a nutshell. That's
basically. Yeah.
I mean, really, what else do you need to know about the movie other than that? Oh, I can still do stuff. Okay,
Right.
well, look in a box. I guess that's it.
Yeah. But gassed in about 30 seconds, so just completely spent. But,
So I have my own story with that. I'm glad that you said you wrapped your hands.
yeah.
So I started doing it at the end of my workout and the beginning of the year, and I was doing it up until March. And yeah, I mean, doing a heavy bag by itself. So I was doing a 1-2 combo, and I'd switch left paw or south paw. So I'd change it up each way, and then I would do small body jabs, and then just do that repetitively while you kind of like jog in place, I guess, while you're doing it.
Okay.
And then at the end, just kind of like wail on it with haymakers. And I actually ended up with a boxing fracture, and it wasn't. So for anybody that doesn't know what a boxing fracture is, it's like anything that's in a carpal in your hand will get fractured. Most likely your pinky and your ring finger down to your hand, your wrist. And so it wasn't a bad one, but it was enough that I couldn't actually lift past that point, because every time, specifically curls, as soon as I'd pick any weight up at all, just a super sharp pain would shoot through my fucking hand. But it's like I didn't want to wrap my hands every time that I was going to do it, because I knew I didn't have the stamina to last that long. So it's like I spend 5 minutes wrapping my hands only to work out for like a minute or a minute and a half. And I regret that very, very deeply, because it's now taken me 6 months to recover from that, and I just started lifting again a week ago. So
man, wow.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Man. It's just super annoying, because it's like I could pretty much do anything else, but then if I hit it at the wrong angle, it's just like sharp pain like throughout my entire wrist. So
right. Yeah.
Wrap your hands if you're going to do a heavy bag, for sure.
Yeah. So for me, because I boxed as a kid or whatever, and I always just, when I was a kid, if I ever hit the heavy bag without wrapping my hands first, it's actually not the knuckles that I ever had problems with. It was or like the fingers. It was always my wrist, because if you, especially with the bag, when it starts spinning or if it starts to sway at all, it's easy to like slip a little bit off the bag when you hit it. Exactly. And then it can tweak your wrist, and that's a no fun situation. So I definitely wrap the hands up first, but yeah.
So I got a stand from my coworker, and it's like a couple months ago, because he was moving, and he was like, "Hey, I got a free stand if you want it." And I was like, "Sweet, yeah, I love it. Heavy, super fun, and it's a good workout, and it's a good stress reliever." So I was like, "Yeah." So he asked me like a month later, like, "Have you used it yet?" And I was like, "Nope." I have a fracture in my hand, so I can't do anything with it.
Right. But yeah, I don't know. I've been walking in the mornings or whatever, so that's good, but it's not really that intense. So
good, man.
Get the heavy bag to ramp it up a little bit or whatever. But
are you going to turn your little rec room into like a workout room, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I don't have like some grand plan for filling it with infinite things or something, but I did order some more puzzle mat.
Cool.
It's carpeted in there, but I don't so standing on it's fine. But I ordered another section of the puzzle mat stuff just now, so I can, because I think what I'm going to do is like do like a probably to start try and do like a minute on the heavy bag, and then like plank or something, and then like get back up and do another minute, and then plank again, or just try and do some maybe do some squats in between. I don't know, just body resistance stuff for now.
For
sure. I might eventually get some free weights or something to put out there, but not in any big hurry or anything. I think I need to get some weights to put on the stand because it was moving a bit when I was hitting the bag. Because
I was
enormous, so
YouTube is amazing for finding like tutorials on anything.
right.
So I found a bunch of really cool heavy bag workout routines, and so I was trying to way through some of the routines that I found, and they're of course meant for real boxers. So it's like, oh, okay, I can do like a quarter of that, but it could be a goal that I work myself towards.
Right. Yeah, it's just I thought it would be something that would be fun, and it's something that I mean, certainly there are heavy bags at some of the gyms around here, but the gyms that when I go to the gyms, the ones I go to don't have one. So it was like something that I could have access to that's not readily available at the gym. Whereas like weights and stuff, I mean, the gym's not that far away if that's what I wanted to do. So,
right. No, and you talked about before, like, I think it's super important to find exercises that you like doing rather than just like, well, I need to do this and I need to do this and I need to do this, but I hate doing all of it. It's like, it's super hard to motivate yourself to develop a routine that you're going to follow through and do when it's exercise that you don't like,
Right.
I like riding my bike, so it doesn't take too much motivation for me to be like, oh, it's nice outside. Well, shit, I can go ride my bike for a while. Like, why not?
Yeah. I really enjoy going for the walk in the morning. Especially like lately I've been going at like, I don't know, around 7 or so. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's pretty tranquil and it's pretty cool still temperature wise or whatever. So I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I love walking, man. I try to walk on my lunch breaks. There's a park like down the street from my work. And so it's kind of a hiking trail and it goes through the woods. So it's a break from, either a factory setting and or lab setting and or, cubicle setting into just nice nature. And even if it's only for 30 minutes, it's a nice break just to get out there and walk.
Anyways, the other day we were talking about the Tool album that we both love so much.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was when I called you, I called really to confess that I've decided to rate it as my favorite Tool album, my number one Tool album. I think it's their best one to date.
Yeah, it's hard for me to really categorize them because for me, like Anima, I think will always hold a special place for me because that's the one that I got into, so that's the one that kind of I fell, deeply in love with the band. And so that one's kind of, I don't know, historical. There's some nostalgia there.
Mm-hmm.
But listening to the new one, it does really feel like each one becomes its own like chapter, its own book in a series. And I don't know, it's hard for me to really rate them because they're all so different because they're written in different perspectives,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, certainly, the new one is just, I mean, we knew like going in, like they weren't going to disappoint. Like the only worry that I had was that they wouldn't finish it because maybe one of the band members like died or something.
Right.
Really, it's like they would not release it and they wouldn't substitute for another band member to come in and finish it because that's, I don't know, that would seem like it was cheapening what they had worked for.
Yeah, maybe they bring old Paul back,
For Maynard, Maynard died. Yeah. Well, we can bring Paul back. That's fine.
It is interesting though because I think that's something. It's a fact of the band that's not really referenced that often. I mean, even by us, like I don't really think about the fact that it was a different bassist for the first 2.5 albums.
Yeah. And generally, it's something that if you were in, 9 Inch Nails or maybe even like Pussifer or APC, or like you can have 2 or 3 main members and then you just kind of cycle through other band members that are there because they're not really contributing to the writing process. They're more musicians that you're for hire essentially. But with Tool, with them all being like equal parts, like it does feel bizarre that they had another bassist for the first 2 records.
Yeah, agreed.
And it's weird, too, because when you listen to, like, Fear Inoculum or really anything that Justin's done, but surely, like, the last one, his bass style sounds so much different than Paul's. Opiate and Undertow, there's a lot more distortion. Like the bass is there and it's very prevalent, but it's also kind of like simple writing, and it's more like distortion reverb, where Justin's doesn't really use a lot of distortion unless it's coming in for like choruses and stuff. He really kind of has his distinct bass sound that's more like a flange and a chorus that you hear a lot in like 46 and 2. Like that main bass riff, he plays a lot with that effect, and that's kind of his signature style, I think.
Yeah, for me, like the thing that I noticed, I've watched a lot of, obviously we've seen Tool live 4 times now, I think, but I've watched a lot of Tool live performances on YouTube. Not recently, I guess, but back in the day, I used to just look for them constantly. In fact, I have downloaded the entire. It's a concert that they did at this place called J.C. Dobbs.
Oh, okay.
In Philadelphia in like '92. It's like a bar. And it's before Undertow came out. So it's mostly Opiate songs, but then there's a couple Undertow songs that are a little different. Like they play Bottom, and he doesn't say shit adds up. He says things add up, which sounds funny just because I've heard it so much on the album.
Right.
But yeah, it's just kind of one of those like Crabtree, he listened to Invincible and Descending live recordings for 3 months before Fear Inoculum came out. Invincible and Descending being songs from the new album. Right. And yeah, I didn't really do it because I was like, I don't know. They change things like that. You know what I mean? Like I've seen examples of that, or like old versions of Stinkfist whenever they were touring on Undertow and Anima was still being written. Stinkfist sounds different. And I mean, sometimes it's actually a cool sound because it's unique or whatever, but it's like, I'll just wait until the final thing.
Yeah. I definitely put myself more in that camp with Crabtree. I obsessively listened to both of those as soon as they came out. I mean, I put it in my audio software and cleaned it up and remastered it so to make it as like clean as possible.
Right.
Because that's, kind of an obsessive fanboy that I am, I guess.
Right. But so in the old live performances, when you watch, the whole point I was trying to make is that when you watch Paul, he just, because I don't have the understanding of the musical sophistication like you do to be able to pick out like, oh, he's not, that's not as complicated or that's more simple or whatever. Instead, it's like just the way that he acted versus the rest of the band members. Like the rest of the band members, I mean, obviously Danny Carey, the drummer, is sitting in a chair playing drums. So he's not, he's moving constantly because he's playing drums, but he's not like moving around the stage. But Adam Jones, since '92, has stood in one place and played guitar. Like he's never ran around or tried to get hype or something.
Right.
And Maynard used to perform at the front of the stage and now largely performs at the back, but still does mostly a lot of the same stuff. But Paul D'Amour was like there's videos of him where he's like jumping up and down and like turning in circles. Like he's in like I don't know, any other 90s band. I mean, it's not that he was crazy. A lot of people do that shit. You know what I mean? But
right.
It doesn't fit the vibe at all.
Right. No,
and then they get Justin, and he's like Adam. He sat one of the concerts we saw. He sat on a stool or in a chair or whatever and played bass for 30 minutes. I mean,
yeah, no, right, exactly. That's like the benefit of having the visual spectacle, because a lot of people, when they go to a show like that, they expect energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we saw Jose Gonzalez lately, and you're like, I wonder if it's going to be like Tool. Like the dynamic between those two shows is so completely different in terms of the crowd's reaction. Everybody at Jose is just like completely silent. Like
loved it. So happy.
Wish like so badly that I could see Tool in that kind of setting.
Yes.
But I don't care about all of the environment that surrounds it, of like the rock hype culture. We're going to scream and be super loud and woohoo every 5 seconds, and we're going to sing along and scream in your face. And it's just like, just shut up and sit down and listen to music. Like,
honestly, that was probably my favorite part about them playing Invincible and Descending at the last concert that we saw back in May. I mean, other than it was awesome to see new songs, that was obviously the best part of it. But beyond that, it was It was that the crowd didn't know him, so they had to just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, right. They didn't know what the lyrics were. They didn't know what the music was. It's just kind of like, I don't know what this is. It's not sober. Yeah. I don't know.
Right.
Shut up and sit down, man.
Right. They would try and start cheering because the Fear Inoculum songs are all very long, except for like, I mean, honestly, Chocolate Chip Trip or whatever, like. That was one of the ones that you found on that early copy that you found of it, but it's more in line with the other kind of weird ambient songs that they have. I don't know what else to call them, where it's only a few minutes long. It's
like Triad,
Right. But the actual full songs, we'll call them, they're all super long, and so like at the concert, there's a lot of rests in the songs though, where it sounds like maybe it's going to end,
right,
and then it doesn't, and yeah, people would start cheering or start clapping like the song was over, and then the music would come back in, and it's like, please just shut up. Not the band, but the crowd. Like, just stop. You don't know when it's over, so just let it go.
Right.
We're all super over it.
Yeah. So. If I was wealthy enough to just hire that band to play a show where it could just be like me and my friends that go, and we could all just like sit and enjoy it, I would totally do that, because I'm not really there for the crowd environment. A lot of people
not at all
rock shows because it's like you're a part of this giant crowd. There's this giant energy.
Mm-hmm.
Shows like that, and there can be a lot of fun. They really can be, but not that band. That band doesn't really play that way,
Well, like you said, as different as Tool and Jose are, for me, it's kind of the same listening experience.
Yeah,
where it's like,
exactly.
I just want to be like completely immersed in it. I don't want any of you fucking people talking. I don't want any people singing along.
Yeah, right.
The place that we saw the Jose show is the Pageant Theater, which is the only time I've ever been to a theater that's that size and that orientation. Like the Galois here in Springfield might seat a similar amount of people, but it's not laid out in the same way that the Palace was.
Right.
Or not the Palace, sorry, the Pageant. The Pageant was far and away my favorite venue that I've ever been to. Like I loved it.
I
so
do.
Much.
People have really hot and cold opinions about it, but I don't really see how you can, because it's oriented in this nice like horseshoe arrangement where it doesn't really matter where you are. You always have like a good spot and vantage point of the band, and it always sounds good. So it's never, I don't know. It always feels intimate, and you and your proximity to the music that you're listening to, regardless of where you're at.
Right. And like you can get up and go get a drink, and the bar is still in the concert hall or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's still in the same room with the stage.
Yeah.
So you don't. Whereas like at the Tool concerts, they're always in these arenas. So if you go get a drink, you have to completely leave the area where the music is. You know?
And it's deadened and you can't hear it. And yeah, I mean, there was a few times I got up during the Jose concert because I'm an audio nerd, like just so I could see what it sounded like in different aspects of the building.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the bar and get a beer, and then I just hang out there and watch a song, because it's just going to sound different. And I'm just a nerd, and I just want to hear that. It wasn't necessarily better or anything. It just sounds different, and I wanted like different angles towards him.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded like, and you can do that there. That's why I think it's so amazing.
Right. But yeah, can you imagine seeing Tool at the Pageant? Like that would be incredible.
I know. Yeah,
but tickets would be like $1,000 each because they
or when they did that intimacy tour show when it was just the instrumental parts of the band, not Maynard, and they would play stuff from the new record, instrumental and old stuff, and then they did Q&A, and I was like, oh man, we have to go do that.
Really?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
I never heard of that. No.
That was last October, maybe. Yeah, you can see like, yeah, and you can ask questions to the band, and they'd answer them and stuff. Oh my god, people had the worst questions, just awful.
Why is Maynard such a dick all the time? Why won't he? Like, why can't he ever participate in anything?
I honestly think for him, it's because he does not have time in his schedule to do stuff like that. Because he's got wine, he's got Pussifer, he's got APC. Like, I think he juggles a lot of things where it's like, I'm
pretty sure Danny's in another band that plays at some place called like the Frog or some shit.
Baked Potato.
All the time. There you go.
There you go.
I don't know why I said frog, but whatever. Maybe the band has something to do with frogs. I don't know. There's some frog tie-in, I believe, but
Oh no, he does have another super band he did with the guitarist from Mastodon. It's a sea chanty metal band. It's really weird. I don't care. There is that band. But yeah, but tickets were $500. So it's like, you pay $500 and then go see, and it's like, man, that's way too out of my price range to do.
I mean, it is, but we paid $300 or something, or no, it was like $200, I guess, a couple years ago because we could only get tickets on the ticket reseller site.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, it is a lot, but it's also like, I don't know. It's kind of once in a lifetime.
I know.
mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
As you can
pay $500 to go like skydiving, you know what I mean? It's kind of like.
Yeah, no, totally. Like but you can imagine that if the tickets that we found sold out for a normal show at an arena really fast, you can imagine how quickly those went out. So,
it would have to be.
They did a show in Chicago, and I was like, "Oh man, gotta go." I was like, "Yeah, there's no way." So resellers on that would have been like, $700, $800.
Oh, well, yeah, probably more than that. But yeah, it would have to be like what you did for the St. Louis show that we saw in May, where you actually went to the venue physically and bought tickets. That'd be the only way to swing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. But it would have been really cool. But yeah, people just they asked just some of the worst questions. I wish I could remember any of them off the top of my head, but it was just like that. You have a chance to meet the band and ask them a question, and that's what you ask them. Like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
What's your favorite pair of sneakers? I'm like, what? Really? That's what you asked him? Oh my god.
I watched. Have you ever seen? I think I linked it to you before, the show Off Camera with Sam Jones, where he interviews like actors and stuff.
Right.
So he recently has had on this dude named I think it's Sam Ackerman, who I guess used to write for Mr. Show, and then he directs Between Two Ferns.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then Off Camera also had Zach Galifianakis on, so I've seen a couple of clips from those, and it just made me think of it because you're talking about the bad questions. So obviously Between Two Ferns is exclusively bad questions. And it turns out it's not scripted. Obviously Zach Galifianakis scripts his questions out ahead of time, but the guest doesn't know what he's going to ask. I mean, they're told ahead of time, the questions are going to be kind of mean and on point, but it's just the show. It's not how we feel.
Right, of course, because there's a lot of, mean shit,
Right.
Obviously, worked with some of these people, like the ones with Bradley Cooper.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But so, he was talking about how he had Hillary Clinton on, which I remember that episode. Right. And I guess it was one of the jokes didn't make it into the final edit, but he was like, "All right, well, we've got some viewer mail, so let's take some questions from our viewer mail." And she's like, "Okay," and he's like, "We actually get our viewer mail via fax," and he has a fax machine next to him, and so it's super loud for a whole entire minute printing out this fax on a dot matrix printer, right? And so they're just waiting for a very long time with this obnoxious sound. And he's like, "Well, we can still talk while we're waiting for that." And she's like, "Okay." He's like, "So what's your favorite color?" And she kind of rolls her eyes and she's like, "Blue." And he's like, "Okay, cool." He's like, "Oh, hey, the fax is done." And he pulls it out. And he goes, "All right. And we've got Amber from Alabama. And her question is, what is your favorite color?" And that's all satire, but I'm sure that the fucking Tool Q&A questions are right in line with that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh my God.
Right.
Except it's not written ahead of time to be funny.
Did you see the Steve Carell Between Two Ferns? I think that's probably my favorite one.
I think I've watched all of them. The ones that have stood out to me are the Brad Pitt one and the Will Ferrell one.
The Will Ferrell one's hilarious.
They start feeding each other cherries or something.
Eating out of each other's mouth.
Yeah. The Brad Pitt one, he spits gum
in his face.
And then Zach Galifianakis eats it. Yeah. And then Brad Pitt takes it back.
And then eats it himself again.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, that's pretty
Carell good. One, he Carell tries to get the jump on him for making like derogatory. He's like, yeah, I know that shit works, huh? You fucking fat ass. Yeah. Like dropping like horrible. Oh my god, it's hilarious. Like, wow, I'm not that fat, actually.
Yeah, I do remember that. That is funny. He's like, I'm not that fat, okay? I'm not that big. Yeah, that show is it's so brilliant. They have a Netflix movie out now.
Yeah, right.
Two Ferns, which I've been hesitant to watch because I like the show so much that I don't want to like tarnish it with a bad movie because I don't understand how that turns into a movie.
Right.
And I haven't seen like a ton of reviews on it, but I've seen a couple people talk about it, and yeah, they're not impressed. They're like, it doesn't really translate. And it's like, yeah, I don't know how it could. It's a 5-minute show. Like, how do you make 90 minutes out of it?
I probably could watch an entire movie of Conan interviewing Jordan Shaleski or whatever.
Oh my god.
Shit, man. Those might be some of the funniest, like,
yes.
Skits or not. Like, watched one where he was eating a Japanese meal. And they go into a Japanese house, and Jordan's like telling him, like, you don't have to talk all the time, okay? Like, sometimes you just sit there in silence. And he like tries to describe to him like what the food is and how it's prepared, and the waitress is just like standing there like the whole time. And Conan's like, I think the waitress is ready to drown herself in the koi pond if she has to listen to you anymore.
Yeah, there's one where they go to like Sam Adams Brewing Company, and actually I don't know if Jordan Slansky's there. So yeah, I just remember Conan making fun of the Sam Adams guy for like he like sniffs the hops very intimately, and Conan's like, that's really creepy. How you doing that? It's like the actual owner of Sam Adams.
Right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I could watch an hour and a half of that for sure.
Yeah. If you did a movie where those two went on vacation somewhere and it's 90 minutes, I'm in.
But some of my favorite aspects of Between Two Ferns is the ending. Like how it just abruptly ends. Like, like, I'm not that fat. And then he just like sits back and he like breaks the chair or whatever. And then it just abruptly ends, you know? So good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's one of my favorite things. It's funny because it's, you know, it certainly doesn't have the longevity of a South Park or nearly it's very unfair to put it in the category of South Park, but the way that I categorize them together is that I'm jealous. Like, I'm jealous of South Park. Like, I like to think that I'm funny and can come up with funny things, but I can't write South Park. Like, that's so brilliant.
You probably can't. Yeah.
And like Between Two Ferns, like, I wish that was my idea. Like, I wish that the walk show was just me insulting guests for 5 minutes.
Right.
What the fuck we're doing over here, you know? It'd be way better. But I didn't think of it, so I can't steal it.
I know. Well, and it's funny too because my reaction to that show is like, God, I'd love to be a guest on that show.
Oh,
because I'm shameless and I don't give a fuck. Like, I would immediately take any insult that he had and just being like, yeah, right. What makes you think that you're a good actor? I'm not a good actor.
Have you seen? There's one out now with Paul Rudd. Have you seen that?
I've seen that. He's not as funny as I thought he would be, but there is one moment where Zach asks him, how long have you been practicing acting? And he's like, I don't practice. I perfected it. And then like cracks himself up a little bit. Yeah, that was pretty fun. Yeah, I did find that.
I thought that Paul Rudd wasn't like, I mean, he's really just kind of playing the straight man or whatever, I thought.
Yeah.
But Zach Galifianakis questions, like when he's like, so how does one become comedy adjacent? I thought that was really funny given Paul Rudd's career.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is kind of what he is comedy adjacent.
Right.
The first time I ever saw him was Clueless. I don't know if that was his first major movie or not, but that's the first time I ever saw him.
Yeah, I think that was the first time I saw him too. Yeah.
And then I think he's in like Wet Hot American Summer.
Yep.
And then honestly, I don't know that I saw anything else that he was in. I mean, I know he did a bunch of stuff, which Zach Galifianakis is like, is it better to be in Marvel movies or things that no one's ever seen? So good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do like Paul Rudd.
Oh,
like,
no,
he's
hilarious.
Funny.
Role Models, I think, is hilarious.
See, I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, it's super, super good. It's him and Sean William Scott, I think.
Oh, Stifler?
Yeah, Stifler. He's good in it, though. He's good in it. He's hilarious.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
They have to mentor, like, underprivileged city youth, I guess, and then troubled youth as part of community service. And Stifler's kid is just like he steals his car. He's like a 10-year-old, like steals his car and goes to the gas station. Just gets him hooked on Kiss songs because Kiss songs are all about sex. Like that's how they bond. Like it's just ridiculous. Like,
wow.
Yeah, it's super ridiculous.
The Stifler guy might be funny. It was just that it seemed like he just only played that role, no matter what the movie was.
Oh, he totally got typecast there for a while. Just
like there was some movie with him and The Rock, and he's that character in that also.
Yeah, right. What is that movie? Is that The Rundown?
It's like him and The Rock, and what did you say? The Rundown?
Yeah, is that it?
I think that is it.
Walken?
And Christopher Walken's the villain. Yeah,
right. He's got like a whip.
I think he has like a whip. Yeah.
Oh, we both went there. Like a whip for some reason. He's got a whip.
Super dumb. Why would you make that?
Get a gun in this villain's hand. Scratch that. Let's get a whip in this villain.
Mm-hmm. I mean, whips do have a storied history of being fucked up. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and The Rock's Hawaiian, so it's kind of close to slavery. I guess.
So, seen any movies lately?
So I watch mostly like horror, like exclusive, which is funny because you don't really watch horror at all. But for me,
never.
Like the only two kinds of movies that I really watch are horror and comedy, and it's because there's like baseline satisfaction that I will get out of them. Where like dramas just take forever. Like I understand, like it's cinematic. Artistic impression when I'm like, oh, that was really cool, like and neat and whatever. But it's like long pauses between dialogues that's softly spoken. That a scene can take like 5 minutes to get out 2 lines of dialogue. It's like, oh my god, this is taking forever. Where horror, like I'm looking at it really at like a superficial level. Like, are there really cool special effects? Is it fun? Is it scary? Is it not scary? There's a whole lot of different elements. Same thing with comedy. Is it funny? Will I laugh at it? Then I don't really give a shit about anything else that's really involved.
Have you ever watched 21 or 22 Jump Street?
Yes. Yeah. So
I was actually really surprised by them. I actually liked them a lot.
So the last time that you were here, I was asleep, but I woke up and Bridget was watching, I think 22 was playing.
Right.
She said you guys were watching that. And I'm glad that you had seen it before because, yeah, I actually really like those movies a lot. I think they're hilarious. Like,
correct, yeah.
Really funny. Both of them are really funny.
Yeah, like I didn't think that I like Jonah Hill from other things I've seen him in. Like, probably my favorite performance of him is Moneyball.
Yeah, he's really good on that. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I just watched that. So, yeah, I did recently watch that like a month ago, maybe.
I guess that's an example of a drama, basically, right? I mean, it's not a thriller, it's not an action.
Right.
I guess it's not a comedy.
Probably why it took me so long to watch it. Because it came out, I don't know, like 10 years ago or something. So it was a while, but I think I just had a bunch of extra time, and I was like, yeah, I should watch that. Aaron Sorkin, right? Didn't Aaron Sorkin write it?
He might have, however,
or co-wrote
based on a book.
Yeah, right.
Moneyball.
Right.
And the guy who wrote the Moneyball book is Michael Lewis. That's also the same guy who wrote the book The Big Short. The Big Short was an adaptation.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
So he's the common thread of fascinating content.
I thought that there was some kind of common thread there.
Yeah, I've watched a ton of Michael Lewis interviews on YouTube, like almost anything I can find, and yeah, it's great. Like I highly recommend Michael Lewis.
Yeah, for sure. Have you seen that Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Brian Regan?
I don't know. I've seen. I was going to actually bring that up when we were talking about Zach Galifianakis because he was way weirder than I thought he would be.
Who?
In Zach Galifianakis in the Comedians in Cars, like he was like him and Dave Chappelle both were like a lot more awkward than I thought.
I haven't actually seen the Chappelle one yet.
Yeah, you should totally watch it.
I was saving that one for when I could actually pay closer attention to it, and I don't think I actually went back and watched it yet. I watched the Eddie Murphy one. That was pretty good. That wasn't bad.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Eddie Murphy one. I haven't watched any of them, and I don't know. It's probably been several months since I checked it out, so I don't know who's up and up these days. Is the Eddie Murphy one good?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think he's talking about doing another stand-up, which is good.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously Seinfeld brings up Raw and Delirious, which I think are classics. I mean, I grew up with those. Well, grew up quote unquote when I was like 17 or 18. Like I watched those. Like I love those. Those are hilarious. Yeah, I recently watched the new Chappelle stand-up and the new Bill Burr stand-up. So,
oh man, I can't believe I haven't seen the Bill Burr one, but the Chappelle one. So. I've seen that.
Do you?
What is your thought? Yeah, and I actually listened to him on Joe Rogan.
Oh, okay.
For a couple hours talking about it, so I plan to watch it. I just haven't got around to it yet.
Great. So the Chappelle one's not that fresh in my mind, but I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
I think it's his best performance since Killing Him Softly.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely, completely agree.
Yep.
The fact that he just blatantly insulted the entire audience, I laughed super hard when he was doing his impressions. Yeah.
His impressions are
what's up, dude? What's going on? Who's that? That's fucking you.
Well, after he says, I'm gonna go and try and find stuff from like 30 years ago and embarrass you with it, so, trying to ruin your career. Who's that? Who's that sound like? That's fucking you. That's who it is. Like, oh my god, so good.
What does he say? I've never had a worse audience than you motherfuckers. He points at everybody in the crowd. Like, damn, wow.
Well, and just it's also like it's interesting because it's absolutely a piece for the time. Because, like, I don't know that 10 years ago I would have thought it was as funny simply because it wouldn't have been as contextually relevant. But the fact that he is so insensitive, I love it because it's weird because like I used to totally be on the like, for lack of a better term, like social justice warrior kick where I'm like, and again, I still am completely anti-bigotry in any form. And it's not that I support bullying. I hate all that.
Of course.
But for a long time, it was like anything that came out like that, I was like, yep, I'm on board. Like F the bully, F the bigot, whatever.
Yeah, totally.
And again, I still feel like that when it's legitimate. But we have absolutely crossed into another area now where it is like hypersensitivity about everything.
Well, and Bill Burr makes a comment because his stand-up is really relevant to the same topic. Is, with Me Too being as an example of something that's really relevant and something that was necessary to begin with, our reaction to it in the society is a way overcorrection for actually the situation, which is, he brings up, he's like, well, there will be a female president. Like, no doubt we will definitely see a female president. And then like a bunch of people start cheering. And he's like, what the fuck? You don't even know what their platform is and you're already voting for them? You know what I mean? And it's like, what happened to due process? What happened to, like, if you use someone that you have to go through a process of dealing with whatever is, if they're guilty, yeah, fuck those assholes. But there's to be legitimacy there. You can't just have people saying whatever they want to and then have repercussions of people's lives being ruined because of it. Like, there's a way overswing where it's like, there's one tweet out, so now this person's fired. It's like, wow, really? PR just destroys your entire, like, life.
Well, like, so you take an example like Harvey Weinstein or whatever, that's, one of the more famous Me Too, fallout things. Perfect sense. Like, yep, that guy sounds like a total piece of shit and a monster. So super glad that we called that guy out.
Yep, definitely.
But then there was like this dude in Minnesota who hosts a radio show, and he had a friend one time, a female friend, and she had a dress or something on that had no back.
Right.
And when he hugged her, he touched that bare part of her back.
Right.
And in the moment, she was like, kind of like, whoa, like that was a little too, that was a little weird. And he was just like, oh, my bad. Like, sorry, didn't mean to cross a line or whatever. Thought it was resolved. And then Me Too movement happens, and that story resurfaces. And not only did he lose his job, but he'd been on the radio for like 30 years, and they deleted all of his radio archives. Like, it's like just erased him. And it's like, I don't feel like that's the same thing.
Right. No, exactly. At all. Like, that is a complete overcorrection. And from my perspective is that you just don't want bad PR. You don't even really give a shit that person did something bad or didn't do something bad. There's enough people that are following that movement that will stop listening to it and stop supporting it. They're like, sorry, ratings are down because this person tweeted something bad about you, so you're gone. And it's just like, what the fuck?
Right. Yeah.
That's how I lose my job, huh? So it amazes me that anybody even has a Twitter account or is even on social media that's like, because it's like, dude, you're just a ticking time bomb. You're just waiting for something. It may not even be something that you did. Like, that's the thing, is like, it could just be something that someone else says. Oh, well, sorry. Enough people follow it and retweet it or whatever, then you're gone. Like, it doesn't matter if it's legitimate or not.
Yeah, and it's an interesting balance to strike, though, because, like, on the one hand, I do think that there's been a significant overcorrection where people are too sensitive, and anything that is critical of them now is like, well, that's unfair that you would say. Like, dog, I've been fat for most of my adult life. Same. And fat jokes, people don't say like fat jokes to me directly all the time, but it happens. Yeah. And certainly people will say them around me, not necessarily directing it to me. And it's like, I just kind of let it go. Now, granted, my weight is something that's in my control, as opposed to, again, like sexism or racism or something like that, where it's not something that, you can pick. So it's a little different, I guess, but I don't know. I just feel like there has been an overcorrection. However, in light of that overcorrection, I also am a little hesitant to jump on the bandwagon, and not that you did or something, but to jump on the bandwagon of like, oh, well, this is all just the boy who cried wolf and there's no problems. It's like, well, it's somewhere in the middle here.
Yeah, no, right. It's not binary. It's certainly not binary, but there has to be some kind of process with dealing with pieces of shit who abuse the power that they're in. Like, that's fine. Right. Legitimacy there, like, fuck those people. Like, rape me. Did he rape you? And there's enough people that say that, and there's evidence, and that's all been accounted for, and it's gone through a due process. Fuck that asshole. Put him in prison. Whatever he needs to do to face punishment, do that.
Right.
But not just start making shit up and just like, have that be the basis of how we actually gauge people's lives.
Like that Brock Turner dude that was like the Stanford kid or something that assaulted a woman like outside of a bar. Like, fuck that guy. Yeah. Like, and got a really lenient sentence. Like, I hope that his name is never forgotten. I hope people always bring up Brock Turner and are like, that guy's a monster piece of shit.
Thing.
Right. Correct.
Right.
So there's examples like that where, yeah, like it is still fucked up and it is messed up, and that guy should be.
Yeah.
The truth is that I just have, I know that it's wrong because I know that there are times where there are false accusations and there are times where the story is not what was portrayed initially, but it's like in that case, there's no question as to whether or not it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like, I know that it's not, it's not actually the reasonable way for us to have a society, but it's like, I don't know, man, if you do that shit, you should just be drug out in the street and ended and just like move on. Like, we don't have time for your DNA to propagate. You know what I mean? So we got to move on from this.
Yep.
But,
well, and I don't want to pay tax dollars to support you being somewhere only for you to come out like 5 years later or whatever and repeat the same behavior, because you probably will, because more than likely all of those people are repeat offenders. So, just sucks. It's a bad system, but you need people, I think, and I think the good comedians are doing a good job of that, because they're social commentators of saying like, hey, there is an overcorrection here. Like, we are kind of, it's good that fighting for equal rights is taking place, but there's also a level of like insensitivity where it's like, I have nothing wrong with transgender people. I don't really give a shit about being gay. I don't really give a shit about whatever aspects about this are not true or are true. But you can't, once you step over the line of treating people as something that's not within their choice, that's a problem.
Right.
You know? Like,
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, and that's what I really appreciate about the Sticks and Stones, I think, is the new Dave Chappelle special, is that I love I love how insensitive it is, and I love how it just goes right at it, and it's just like, what are you going to do to me? Because he already got paid. There's no show to get canceled. There's no advertisers, no sponsor to get pulled.
Right.
He just do what he wants, and it's brilliant.
One of my favorite lines is when he talks about the LGBT community being in a car, and you use that as an analogy, and he's like, and the T's are really just making the car ride longer. Oh man, that was so good, because it's, you know, that's a much more difficult situation to transpire and make it for equal rights or not equal rights. You know that.
Well, and the thing is that I also love is that, like, it's not even that I necessarily, it's honestly not that I agree with a lot of the things that he's saying, but I don't think a lot of the things he's saying are actually his point of view either. It's more like, it's, you know, as Tool teaches us, like, I go back to the scriptures, as Hush teaches us, I can't say what I want to, even if I'm not serious. You know, it's like, it's just, it's a joke. And if you don't like the joke, that's totally fine. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to support it. You don't have to check out his next special when it comes out. Right. But he's not a monster because he made a joke. Sorry. Like,
yeah, right, exactly. And at the end of the day, these people aren't legislators, and they're not people that are writing the rules and foundation of our economy and society. They're just pointing out things that maybe seem ridiculous and inconsistent, and things that, like, this is kind of weird and fucked up and funny.
Right.
You know? Right. And really, to bring it back to Tool, like, maybe we do need a fear inoculum. You know, maybe we need something to help us provide, you know, an inoculation for our future based on the circumstances that we have now. Like, we need to take a look at all the things that we're doing as a society and hopefully help mitigate that later against fear. You know, whether or not it's their intent with that record or not, I don't know. You know, Crabtree and I have talked a little bit about it. But being a fear inoculum, it seems like the whole album is designed to be like an inoculum, something that you build a vaccination against, like impact everything that's needed to work against fear. And since that's kind of been prevalent, especially in our society as of late, like, you know, let's kind of look at everything we need in order to make that fight better, you know?
Right.
Because, like, I think one of the best points that Maynard had brought up was on the Joe Rogan podcast when he talks about, I think it was a game show idea he had or something where he talks about wanting to just get two people together, have a conversation about something not revolving around your actual viewpoints of what you actually believe, just find common ground somehow. And then once you actually develop a relationship with that people on independent topics of what you actually believe, you'll realize at the end of that you still believe what you believe and they still believe what you believe, but you've had common ground to communicate with,
Yeah, I mean, and obviously a lot of people have had this conversation, so not that this is a profound point at all, but I think it's so much social media. I mean, I've talked about before, I used to sit next to a lady at my old job who just would get on Twitter and just do political fights all day. And on Twitter, she's like this, like, and to her credit, she gets bullied too, so it's not just like she's the only aggressor. It's a whole cycle where everyone's super vicious with each other.
And in the ring.
But then in person, that's not who she is. And her and I had completely different political views, and we could actually have rational conversations. Now, sometimes I would have to cut the conversation short because I thought it was starting to veer into like being a little too confrontational for what I care to talk about at work.
Yeah.
But we could do that, and I could be like, you know what, I don't want to actually go there. I respect your opinion because you're entitled to it, but I don't actually want to debate that with you. And she's like, okay. And that's it. And it's like, it's because we're in person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The keyboard warrior thing is just so real, and it's unfortunate.
Was that guest you had did the social media startup, German cat?
Yeah, Alexander Riesenkampf, I think his name is, something like that.
Yeah, like that was a really cool idea. I thought that you had social media, but you had to actually have a camera so that you could see the physical person that you were interacting with, so you could actually see body language. You could actually see responses, not just faceless dialogue imprinted that you can't provide context. Like one thing that I know that I hate about doing any kind of typing on social media or texting is that sarcasm never translates. So I mean,
for you and I, it does, because we're pretty much exclusively sarcastic.
Right. So. And we know that about each other. But if I'm sarcastic with someone else on a text or anything else, it's like, they probably don't get it. But unless I shroud it in like tons of ridiculousness where it's like, okay, obviously he's being sarcastic.
Yeah, I just type LOL like 40 times per text, so that way people understand that I'm always like, isn't it funny? Right. I don't actually laugh that much, but in the text, constantly laughing.
Yeah, definitely.
People that know me will be like, hey, you laugh quite a bit. Well, listen here, fuck sticks. It's not that much. So.
So what is your favorite track on the new Tool record?
It's so hard for me to decide. Like I said this when the album first came out, I was talking to another buddy about it, and I was like, my favorite song is whatever one I listened to most recently.
Yeah.
And I still actually don't know that I've escaped that, because like Invincible, I got stuck on recently, and I was like, I think that's my favorite track. And so then I started doing the thing I always do, where like I start playing the album at that track.
Right.
And I might put it on like loop all or whatever, so when it gets through the end, it starts back over at the beginning. So it's not that I'm not listening to the songs that come before it. I'm just kind of listening out of order, I guess you could say. So I started doing that with Invincible, but like what is there not to like about Tempest? You know, what is there not to like about Culling Voices? Like, I don't know. It's all incredible. So I guess to have a position, I would say that currently it's invincible.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like when we were talking about ranking the albums. Like, I say that I think this is their best work, but it's their best work by like 1%. You know what I mean? Like, if this is at 100%, all of the others are, you know, descending down to like 95% or something, and maybe that's even too significant.
Right.
So same thing with the songs. Like, Invincible's kind of where I'm at right now, but it's not because I think the rest of it is in any way bad at all. Like, I love it.
Yeah, I was looking on reviews when it first came out on Reddit from people because I was trying to find other people that were noticing links and melodies to previous songs. So you and I talked about, you know, my current opinion or philosophy or perspective is that the album is a throwback to its previous record. So there's a lot of reused melodies, not out of laziness, but out of like companion songs that it's written to backward. So I was trying to like look and see if other people were kind of noticing that. And I found one person that was like, oh man, Fear Inoculum is so great. The album is so great. It's so much better than Undertow. I'm just so glad that they finally did that. Just that comment really took me back because it's like, what the fuck is wrong with Undertow? Like, what are you talking about? Like, are you really?
What strange? Did you miss the other three or whatever? Like, what?
Right. It was like, okay, I think Undertow's pretty much perfect as it is. Like, I don't know, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, I mean, even Sober, that you and I are like sometimes a little hesitant on because it's the song that probably got the most radio play,
right? And
it's covered by that fuckface from Stained, Aaron Lewis, or oh god, he actually tours and covers that song as part of his like. Fuck you, man.
Well, he's country now. You know, he's got to. So,
are you kidding me?
Oh yeah, that's what he does now. He's like, or he's solo acoustic,
right?
I think he veers more.
That's what I've seen is the solo acoustic version of him covering Sober by himself.
Yeah.
Which, at least to his credit, he is not a terrible vocalist. I've also seen, for anyone who wants their ears to bleed, there is a cover that Fred Durst does.
Yeah, correct.
From Limp Bizkit of Opiate.
Yeah.
And that is.
Yeah.
It makes you mad.
I watched this local band in Springfield, Missouri when I was like 18 or 19, and they covered the song Opiate. And that dude, he had like long blonde hair, and he was shirtless with a leather vest on, and it's pretty bad. And the rest of the songs didn't sound like that at all. It was just like, who is this band? And then all of a sudden they played Opiate, and I was like, what?
Well, and what a bizarre one to cover. Like, do like Sweat or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, why Opiate? Why that one where there's like a lot of vocal emphasis or whatever? You know, like
totally like Scott Stapp from Creed, like holding them up leather vest, and it was just like, I think you missed the point here, man. It's not. One of these things is not like the other.
Right. Yeah, like we were talking about with the new Tool record, though. I feel like it's I don't know, the heaviest record that they have, like as far as just like a hard rock kind of sound or whatever you want to call it. You know, I don't know if heavy metal is the appropriate term or what, but Opiate is certainly pretty heavy, but Opiate's very short. I mean, it's an EP and the songs are short. Yeah. Undertow is kind of similar to it. Go ahead.
No, yeah, you're right. It definitely is much more into the metal spectrum where they haven't really been before.
Right.
There's a lot of intricate melodies, and it is heavy, but it's not like bar chord heavy rock like Undertow and Opiate are, where it's just chords that are heavy with heavy distortion, and that's kind of the driving force of the melodies, like intricate, arpeggios and different, guitar terminologies that showcase their intricate work, which is what metal fans really like about metal, is that like,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like for everyone who is like, oh, I love Metallica, but all before the Black Album, or Metallica. Right. Like, well, listen up, dude, because this is not that it sounds like Metallica, but just like all the things that you claim to love about that old Metallica, they're doing here. Where, I mean, again, it's 12-minute tracks, 15-minute track. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of it is not covered with vocals. A lot of it is just instrumental stuff.
Right.
So,
right. Which was definitely, we had talked before, like my biggest hang up with coming to terms with the record. And that's just something that, for me comes with the cycle of a new Tool record and dissecting it in layers. It's like, not every layer that you listen to initially is a layer that you actually want or that you're expecting. So therefore you're not really sure if it's something that you actually want, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
My best example of that, I was thinking about this earlier, is that Outkast had a record called Speaker Box Love Below, where Outkast is a duo, and Big Boy wrote Speaker Box, and then Andre 3000 wrote Love Below. Two completely separate records, and Love Below was Andre's record, and it's very eclectic. It's very like superficial. There's a lot of like R&B on there. There's a lot of funk. There's some jazz. There's some hip hop, but it's a really unique style of songs that he goes through. And then Big Boy's record is just basically like a standard hip hop record. And when I first listened to it, I was like, I really like Andre's record, because Andre's record is this super colorful, experimental break from tradition of record that they had done before. And Big Boy's was just kind of like leaning into the style that he was kind of like known for. So I put Speaker Box kind of on the side, and then Love Below was like my jam. Like, I loved it. But really, after like a week of listening to Love Below, it was like I found myself skipping over a ton of songs just to get to the songs that I like. And I didn't actually end up liking the record that much because it didn't hold up over time, because it was written really quickly and it was really superficial and eclectic, where I found myself really loving Speaker Box because the more that I listened to it, the more it like grew on me like over time. It became something that I liked more and more that I listened to it. And it's like every time that I play Tool for someone that's never listened to it before, I kind of have to preface that with that, because I don't expect them to be like, oh my God, this music is so crazy, I've never heard it before. It's like, you're not really going to have that reaction. You might, but more than likely you're going to be like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's not anything crazy that I've never heard before or something. But I guarantee you, if you listen to it over and over and over again, it will start growing on you more and more, because there's things about it that just stand the test of time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that was my experience with it. You introduced it to me. I think we talked about this on the Tool episode already, but I remember we got in your truck and you were like, you want to listen to Tool? And I was like, no. And you were like, what? You don't like Tool? And I was like, I mean, I don't really know it, I guess. I just associated it with like skater culture from when we were teenagers, which I don't even know what that means now at this age, but back then that meant something to me.
Right.
And you were like, no, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to put it in. And so you put it in, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. And so I started listening to it, and yeah, it just it just continued to grow on me the more and more I listened to it.
Yeah, because it hooks you with melodies that aren't super complex, but that you kind of like remember. And you're like, oh yeah, I really like this song. I really like Prison Sex, for example. Like, yeah, it's a really cool song. That's the one that you really got into.
Right.
You listen to that one a lot, and then you're like, holy shit, like the more I listen to it, the more like this song is amazing.
Right.
The idea in the context of what it actually means, or what it means in the album that they produced or whatever, but just that you like the song that it is, and then you move to different songs. Like, oh, I really like this song. Oh, I really like this song. And then you kind of like start peeling back the layers of saying like, oh, there's like much more depth here than just a rock song about partying with your friends and getting wasted or something,
Right. Yeah. No, it's obviously, we're huge Tool fans, so we love it, but it's like we talked about before, it's constantly the onion, right? Like you constantly just can peel back layer after layer, and there's just always more, and there's always something else. And I don't know. The new album, you know, I talked about it on another episode where I kind of gave my review of the album in brief, if you will. But what the thing that I said was that, like, on all the other albums, you know, and really I think it's because of the song length, but the songs are all independent. Like, The Grudge is like a self-contained thing on Lateralus, and then Schism is a self-contained thing. But then, like, on this new album, it's almost like there's multiple songs within a song, and not that they're not all, you know, not that the songs don't make sense or don't stay within a theme, if you will, but there's just so many parts.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
just crazy.
Some of them are 6, 7. I mean, 7's kind of the running theme throughout the album. Yeah, I mean, some of them don't even repeat. Like, they just kind of like build to a specific moment, and you don't ever hear that moment again. Like, it's just for that moment that you hear that build, and like that's it. Like, and those builds are so satisfying, like so ridiculously good. Like, and it's crazy because that's what makes me think that the melodies that are used that are similar to previous songs are developed as companion songs, because the other melodies and parts of the rest of the song are so intricate and so different that it's not like they just wasted time, you know, oh, we'll just kind of write this song and then we'll just recycle it for 3 minutes and create a bridge and a chorus and then we're good. You know, it's like, not infinite, but there's a vast amount of complexity that goes into the rest of the song that it has to be intentional that they reuse these melodies or used melodies very similar to it, with lyrics that are companion lyrics to, you know, previous songs that are used for a reason, you know.
Yep.
And I think if that is actually true, that it's fucking badass.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Tool fan, obviously you should be listening to the new album. And if you're honestly just a music fan, you should be listening to the new album, because it is excellent from front to back. I have literally zero complaints with it. I only continue to find it to be better and better the more and more I listen.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by the pod today, Mish.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm gonna go grab some food or something, but appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
it's been good.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it for today's episode. Thank you again so much for listening. And thank you very much, Misha, for joining. And as always, thank you, Misha, for providing the music for the show. Hope you guys have a great week. Stay up.